All 16 electors that we've been advised by the governor's staff that we're going to be here to vote in the Electoral College have been checked in. They're already here.
But these are the rest of the electors.
I understand. The Capitol is closed.
That was outside the Michigan State Capitol, December 2020. That scene ultimately led to the indictment of 16 alleged fake electors for Donald Trump in Michigan. It led more recently to testimony in a Michigan state courtroom on Friday, this past Friday. As reported in the Detroit News, that same officer who turned the fake electors away at the door to the state capitol, he testified in court on Friday that he, quote, had been interviewed Thursday by someone from the Federal Bureau of Investigation and 2 U.S. prosecutors from Washington, D.C. Thursday, of course, was also the day a jury in New York found Donald Trump guilty in a hush money plot to save his campaign in 2016. We now know that same day, federal investigators apparently were interviewing Michigan law enforcement in a sign that there is an active federal investigation into the Michigan fake electors scheme. As part of those same court hearings where this news came to light, we also learned that the state investigation in Michigan might not have reached its conclusion yet either. The state investigator telling the court that the Michigan Attorney General's office still has outstanding subpoenas and search warrants as part of what he described as an ongoing state investigation into the Michigan fake electors. He told the court, quote, "It's still an open investigation." He also told the court at one point that investigators were treating the Michigan State Republican Party headquarters as a, quote, crime scene. Joining us now is Craig Mauger. He's politics reporter for the Detroit News. He's been reporting on the fake elector news out of Michigan. Mr. Mauger, thank you very much for being here. I appreciate you joining us.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
So this is a sort of sprawling case. There's 16 defendants, and there's been a lot of court proceedings already, not for all of them, but for most of them, that are essentially designed to decide whether or not these charges are going to go ahead. It's a long process. It's a somewhat complex process, given the number of defendants. What do you feel like have been the major revelations from the court proceedings that you've covered so closely thus far?
I think you've hit on a couple of them tonight, that this is very much an ongoing probe. The Attorney General's staff is trying to figure out what the guidance was that was provided to these 16 electors whose signatures ended up on this certificate, falsely claiming that Donald Trump had won Michigan's 16 electoral votes. This investigation is ongoing. There's some element of a federal probe that's looking at this as well that seems very much ongoing, as you mentioned. The key thing here is the Attorney General's office has to prove, as part of this case, to be successful, that these individuals had an intent to defraud the public. The question is, did these individuals have that intent, or was someone essentially fooling them into signing this document, not letting them know what the true purpose of the document was, and then turning around, taking their signatures and doing something different than what they had told them they were going to do? That's the crux of all of this. And if it's not their intent to defraud, if it's someone else's, the question is, whose was that, and why have they not been charged so far?
Right. And to have the state prosecutors in Michigan, the investigators, say, we've got these 16 defendants, but here's another 11 people who are unindicted co-conspirators, including the former president, including his top lawyer. They are painting a sprawling picture, but the charges haven't necessarily followed all of the allegations. At this point, that's, Craig, part of the reason I wanted to talk to you is that I was really surprised by this revelation that you reported in court on Friday, that there does appear to be an ongoing federal investigation here, a federal investigation on top of what's going on with the state. Do you have any sense from what's been disclosed in court what the contours might be of that federal investigation?
Well, the police captain who revealed this, and everyone in the courtroom was surprised by this. The defense attorneys were surprised. Even the judge kind of used the word surprise to talk about this statement that was made by the Michigan police captain all of a sudden, kind of out of the blue. Is kind of a traditional line of questioning. Who else have you talked to? And this police captain says, I talked to some people yesterday from Washington, D.C. Everyone kind of froze for a second. What do you mean you talked to someone from Washington, D.C. yesterday? He said that this interview focused wholly on the electors. This was about the electors. This wasn't some other issue. This was an interview that lasted some amount of time talking about these fake electoral votes that these people brought to the doorstep of the Michigan Capitol on December 14, 2020. He said that they didn't ask about specific individuals. He read a list of some names. Did they ask about this person? He said no. It must have been, from what I could tell from his testimony, it must have been kind of overall what happened when you were at the doorstep. These people came to the door, you answered. What happened?
And it was FBI personnel and federal prosecutors. And it's
exactly
now
right.
that they're asking him these questions. Wow. It's amazing. It's very important to keep your old tape. When you play tape of something that happened, hold on to it for longer than you'd hold on to your tax records, because you never know when the FBI will finally follow up on the crime that you aired on your TV show. Craig Mauger, you've really helped us and the whole country follow the nitty-gritty of these stories as they've unfolded, and they seem to be unfolding in more and more important ways. So we're really grateful for you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Craig Mauger, politics reporter for the Detroit News.